Hi, thank you for joining me today. It's Geraldine from the Paper Puffin Studio, and today I'm going to show you how to make this card. You can see I've made a couple of other variations with the same style of card. This one's for fall, for Halloween, and for Christmas. So I hope you enjoy this video. If you do, please remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Now let's get started. Let's begin by going through all of the pieces that you're going to need to build this card. For the base of your card, you're going to need a piece of cardstock measuring 4 1/4 by 11 inches. This is going to get scored halfway at 5 1/2 inches. You'll need a piece of designer series paper, 4 1/8 by 2 3/4, and another piece that's 4 1/8 by 1 inch. You'll need a coordinating cardstock that measures 4 1/8 by 2 3/4, and then this piece measures 1 inch by 4 inches. This is going to get cut using the window die. I also need a piece of white to go on the inside of the card, and that's going to be 4 1/8 by 4 1/4 inches. I've got this piece of black cut, and this is going to be used to cut out the window die, and this piece measures 3 1/4 inches by 4 1/4 inches. I also have cut the paper that I'm going to use for the sentiment on the front. So this piece is 3/4 of an inch by 4 1/2, and this piece is 1 inch by about 5 inches. You'll notice I also have this piece of designer series paper. I chose this one. It's from an older set of designer series paper with a Halloween theme. I can't recall the name. However, I'm going to be using this to be the image that you see through the window. If you don't have a piece of paper with a design that you like that you could look at through the window, you can always stamp the image that you're going to be looking through the window to see. That's up to you. Now for this next step, I'm going to do the scoring. So you're going to take your piece of 4 1/4 by 11 inch paper. You're going to put the 11 inch edge across the top, and you're going to score at 5 1/2, exactly at the halfway mark for the folding of your card. You then need to fold and burnish along that score line. That's all the scoring that we need to do for this card. Now I'm going to go ahead and get the paper ready for the inside of the card. So I've got my piece of designer series paper that I'm going to be attaching here, and my piece of white paper that will get attached just right here with a tiny border around all the sides. Before I attach this white piece, I've chosen a couple of images that I want to use on the inside. So I'm going to be using this spider from the Hallows Night Magic set, and then I'm going to use this tiny little spider web with a spider as well. I'll go ahead, stamp those images, and attach these pieces to the inside. Now that I have the little images that I want for the inside of the card, and this insert and this decorative piece attached to the inside, I'm now going to go ahead and start working on the front. So I'm going to take my piece of designer series paper, and that is going to get attached here. And I'm going to take my piece of cardstock, which I cut to go here. And this is going to get attached here after I've run it through my cut and emboss machine using this striped embossing folder. So I'm going to be placing this paper inside of the striped embossing folder. I'm going to line it up exactly where I want it on the stripes. You'll see that it meets the edge of this stripe and the edge of this stripe. And then I'm going to run it through the machine. I've run the cardstock through the striped embossing folder, and now I've got that striped image. So I'm going to attach the designer series paper to the top half of the front of the card, and then this piece will go on the bottom half. I'll make sure that they're lined up, and this piece will slightly overlap onto the designer series paper. I'll pick up there. The next step now is to do the die cutting. So I've got this window from the Heart and Home Thinlit dies. I'm going to be cutting out the window with this piece of black, and then I'm going to run it through the machine again using this smaller piece of the gray cardstock, and I'm going to be lining up the gray just so that it sits right here. The purpose of this is so that I can get this piece of what's going to be the trim or molding. Now, to show you what I'm going to do with this little portion of the window, I'm going to be trimming this off. You'll see that there are, let's try to get it in the camera here, there are 3 lines that are embossed. I'm going to be cutting at the 3rd line from the bottom. So I've got 1, 2, 3. I'm going to trim off this piece. So now I have this. Now this piece I'm going to cut in half. I don't need to measure it, I'm just eyeballing it. And then I'm going to be putting some Tombow glue on the back, and I'll attach this portion right here, and then this piece on the other side. And those pieces will then act like the wooden trim or molding you would see. Now with those 2 pieces of trim in place, I went ahead and cut out the image how I want it to be behind the window. And so I'm going to be lining it up like this and gluing it, and then this is going to get attached to the front of the card. Now the next step is to attach the window to the front of the card, and I'm going to do that using dimensionals. Now that I've got the window attached, I'm going to go ahead and stamp my sentiment. I'm going to punch out the ends of the white, and then I'm going to attach the white to the black background, and I'll also punch out the ends. Here's the finished card. You can see I embellished it a little bit with some rhinestones on the ends of the sentiment and put a little bow on the top. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.